Welcome everybody to day one of the New Earth Woman immersion. I am so excited to be here with you all. I am just going to consecutively double check that we are all good and live within the group. Haven't done a live like this in some time, not through Zoom, so just checking. Here we are. Amazing. So let me know in the chat box that you're here, say hello, and we're going to get going straight away. So if you are here watching a replay, I would love you to let me know that you're here. I would love you to say hello and interact with this as we go, as if you were watching it live. So welcome everyone. Hi Sarah, hi Sally, hi Christine. So amazing to have you all on live. I'm so excited to be here now. Let me just, yes, I'm recording, good. Okay, so today we're going to be doing, hey Zoe, hey Maya. Oh, it's so great to see so many of you live. Hey Andrea. Now I'm going to do my absolute best to keep up with the chat box. However, because I am running this off Zoom, I may be a little bit slow. So I will come back to them and say and check in with all of them after the live though. So if I do miss something that you say, I will come back and say hello and thank you so much for commenting. It means the world to me. And for this whole next 7 days, for us to be interactive is going to be what is going to enable us to get the most out of it. So I actually feed massively off of responsive energy. It's one of the most powerful ways for me to serve at my highest. And so if things are resonating with you as I'm sharing them, please do say so in the comments box. If you have questions, please do share them. If I don't answer them in the video, I will absolutely come back to them in the chat box. And I'm just so beyond excited. Hey, Kathleen. Hey, Elizabetto. Is that how you say your name? Beautiful. Hi, Beck. Hi, Laura. Thanks, guys, all for, again, being on live. So today is really the introduction to the New Earth Woman. We're going to be talking about holding the New Earth Woman timeline. We're going to be going ultimately deep into what it is and how each of you have been called to this particular version of yourself. So, and then following on over the next 6 days that we have left over, we'll be going deeper into some of the topics that I will kind of reference today. And I'm allowing some space for some additional stuff to channel through because that's the way I roll. So I don't actually have all of the details of what we're going into, but I can feel the remnants of them and the frequency of them, and it's going to be some really amazing and powerful stuff. So I thought I'd start off by sharing a little bit about myself, because there are quite a few of you who are very new to my field, very new to my space. And so although some of you will know some of these things, I ask you to bear with me whilst I share them with the rest of the collective, because it is really important to understand some of these areas of who I am, because this is ultimately what has taken me on the journey all the way until now. And when I received the download and the information around the New Earth Woman, it was like my entire world just like clicked into place, because there's been such a lifetime of information and of growing and evolving that has ultimately led me to where I am right now. And so for those of you who don't know, I got a little bit of a head start on personal evolution. I was blessed enough to be born by a mother who was very much into metaphysics from the time that I was a very young age. So I first did Reiki when I was only, I did a certification in Reiki, in kids Reiki, when I was 8 years old. And then I did my first weekend meditation retreat when I was 11. I was seeing trance channels when I was in my teens. And ultimately, this has kind of been a lifelong journey for me to get to where I am. I've had a very, very low level, if any, I've had no kind of major traumas in my life. And so what that actually enables me to do is have a very, very clear filter on the information that I share and on the way that I interact with people. Of course, I still have my own triggers. Of course, I still have my own wounds. We are not immune to that. None of us are. However, my way of interacting the world, because of that head start, has actually given me a slightly different way of kind of being in the evolution journey, in the expansion. And so when we talk about all of these topics that we're going to be talking about over the next week, they truly are embodied in my experience. They are the ways in which I already interact with the world. And the New Earth Woman is ultimately an expression of the way in which I am expressing myself in the world when I'm in my highest, when I'm in my highest self, when I'm in my highest timeline, when I am not, playing in the arenas of the small self, in which do absolutely happen. And so this is going to be such a huge piece of this week, is going to be really talking about the humility that is required in order to bring forward the new earth and to be in the frequency of the New Earth Woman. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of me. And if you do want to know more, then obviously we can go deeper on that. Feel free to private message me, ask me any questions. And so I wanted to really start off today by just kind of setting up what it means to be the New Earth Woman. So as you will very well know, a long time ago, we lived in an experience where there were slaves. We lived in an experience where women were unable to have a voice or to vote or to work. And over time, step by step, we have collectively enabled some of those things to open up for us as we've kind of moved on over the last, couple of thousands of years. And ultimately, with each and every single woman that has paved the way before us, and with every single new idea and every single new awareness and every single new dream and desire that each of those women that have had, that from the past have had, they have created new worlds and new earths for us to then have available to us, so that we can then create the next one and the next one and the next one. And it kind of goes on and on and on and on from there. And so what I really wanted to do initially was really pay like a homage, really pay my respects and my gratitude to each and every single one of the women who have walked before us, because we are paving the way for the ones before us. And where we are currently at has been paved for us already. And so I wanted to pay like some major gratitude to people like my mum, who were starting to dabble in this work when it absolutely was nowhere near as acceptable to do so. You were classified as, in a negative way, woo-woo or cuckoo. There was no not the same awareness that is available for us today. And those people in the past, not just my mum, but, all of the people that have been doing this for, years and eons before I even came into existence, it's so, such a big part of why we are where we are. And so I think that by no means are we the ones that are to create the last version of this. Beyond us, there is going to be a multitude of newer dreams and newer evolutions and newer earths kind of moving forward. But right now, because we are in this intense portal of creation of light codes being shone on us down in the earth, we are going through an enormous shift in the evolution of not only women, but of the collective as a whole. And because we are shifting away from the patriarchal ways into more unity, it is requiring of women especially to step more into their leadership. We need more divine feminine leaders in the world. We need more of us shining our light brightly as beacons to continue to move forward into our new way of being. And so with every single breakthrough and with every single new idea, we're ultimately creating new realities and curating new earth. It's just that right now, in this particular period of time, we have a really big and amazing opportunity to create the next thing. And so this week we're going to be covering, some of the elements of which are super important in order to hold those new ways of being. So if you were called here and you are experiencing and being a part of this immersion this week, I want you to make no mistake. There is something here for you. Whether it's today, another day, or the entire week, there is a reason that you have been called to do this. Now, it may be to upload some new coding from me just through receiving, through the video and through the experience. It may be to for a new idea or a new way of being to kind of anchor into your field so that you can express yourself in a slightly more expanded or a different way to the way that you have in the past. And so either way, it's totally perfect. If there's things that I'm sharing, that I'm saying, if they're going over your head, or equally, if they are not new to you at all, just trust that if you're here, there is a reason for it, and there is so much going on beyond the words that I am saying. So if there are pieces in which your mind is currently struggling to keep up with or understand, or some of the language or the words that I'm using aren't quite registering, just allow yourself to relax and surrender into receiving of the transmissions that I will be sharing. And just know that through the experience, whatever it is that called you here will be received. That will happen for sure. If you're feeling called to show up live or on replay, it doesn't matter. It's all kind of happening in and of itself, on its own, without you needing to do anything. All you need to be is present. And so, yeah, that's kind of the setup, really. So holding the New Earth timeline and holding yourself as a New Earth woman is about recognizing and anchoring in who you be in the most highest version or in the most highest expression of yourself, because ultimately that is the New Earth woman. Now, the particular work that we're doing is specifically speaking to a particular type of woman. And if you're not this woman, that's perfectly okay, because like I just said, there will be something in this for you. It may not necessarily be to kind of go down the deep path and do this work, in a deeper capacity. However, it might be something that is going to call you forward into that, maybe at a later stage. And so, what was I just saying? Yes, and so the New Earth is you in your highest expression, in your highest vision, in the highest experience for yourself. And so for some people, that might be called to that because for the last 15 years, maybe less, maybe 3 years, maybe 2, whatever, you've gone fully deep into the healing journey, into the I really know that I need to sort these things out in order to be the best version of me. And then we kind of get to this point where we're sort of like, I'm sort of sick of doing the fixing, and we start to recognize that, yes, that journey has been very, very potent and important and required in order to get to the next stage. However, once we've kind of been in that and dug into it and really unpacked a lot of the things that we really wanted to shift away and heal from, then there is actually another experience beyond that. And that experience is bringing in the healed version of you into the world and expressing and experiencing as that healed version of you. So each and every single one of us is going to have a slightly different version of what the New Earth woman looks like, and that is totally and completely perfect. The main point is you have a higher version, or a higher vision, I should say, of yourself, for the world, for your experience, and you are willing to do what it takes in order to anchor in to that timeline so that you are experiencing it as often and in as much of each and every single day as possible. So in the past, you may have been experiencing things with a lot of trigger, or your trauma was leading the way. Whereas once you've kind of shifted past that, obviously there's this new way. And so if you're still totally and completely immersed in that healing stage, that is perfectly fine. The content that we're going to be sharing this week is still for you. It may be showing you kind of what's next. And if you are one of those people who have done a lot of the healing, this is kind of the next phase. This is the next kind of awakening, or the next awareness that we get to have, that gets to kind of have us directed in a particular direction. And so I trust that everything that comes through will be of service in some way, shape, or form. So our role as the New Earth Woman is, like I said, recognizing and anchoring in to the highest version of ourselves. We're not here to like wake people up. We are here to express ourselves, and if that then calls somebody to move into a similar timeline, amazing. But it's not the purpose. The purpose is to share and express. The purpose is to shine your light as bright as you possibly can, and trust that by doing that, that's all you need to do. That is the beacon. And that may be the beacon for other people if you work in like the type of work that I'm doing right now, or in any other type of service industry. But it may also be if you have like a retail job. It's just to be that version of yourself in your retail job. It's about conducting yourself as this higher version in as much of your time as physically possible. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't continue to heal. We continue to have a team of support that allow and assist us to move through whatever else gets presented to us over the time in which we are here. We are not immune to having things still challenge us. We're not immune to having things still affect us. However, we absolutely know when and how to receive the support that we need so that we don't stay stuck. Because what happens in the New Earth Woman frequency is that the time in which it takes to shift through new experiences that are maybe considered a little bit more challenging or negative, it just happens a lot quicker. And so it happens quicker because the awareness is significantly broader than what it used to be. And it happens quicker because we are able to request support. We know that we need a team of people to support us because we're not meant to do this on our own. We are all here to ensure that we receive the support that we need. And so, let me just expand this box so I can see your comments. Shine bright, exactly. Katie says, yay for shining our light and just being us in our expression. Wee, yes, yes, yes. That's what I was always saying to everyone, always shine your light bright and never let anyone dim it. Exactly. And ultimately, that is the role, that is the job. So now that we've kind of gone through sort of the basics of who she is, I'm going to go into a few kind of areas a little bit deeper for us to explore about what that actually means to us in our own realities. Now, the first thing is, now this may be super, super common concept for some of you, and it may be a new concept for some of you. So I'll give a really, really basic idea. So for anybody who's not quite down with the lingo. So let's just refer to the old earth or the old way of being in the context of the 3D. This is our physical reality. This is where coronavirus is. This is where all of the kind of havoc and chaos that is happening. Now, we absolutely are in and interacting with that on a daily basis. However, the New Earth woman is able to kind of relate to that in a slightly different way to the average person, as is every person that's a little bit more conscious, right? However, there are some pieces. So I just wanted to explain that the 3D being the physical reality, the 5D or the fifth dimension being the higher reality that we are kind of moving into, where we are continuously interactive with both of those realms at any one time. So we're not only in the 3D and we're not only in the 5D, we're kind of flowing through the two and kind of being in both at the same time all of the time, which is just simply us in our consciousness, us being aware of the higher dimensions and the higher availability. So if that's gone straight over your head, just like I said earlier, just trust that whatever needs to be received is being received. And if that's not new to you, then perfect. Thanks for bearing with me whilst I explain that. So with the 3D, the reason that I was bringing this up is because we're going to be going deep onto this in one of the days and how we kind of interact with the 3D, with the third dimensional realms, with the experiences that are part of the old earth, the part of the old ways of being. And so with the highest version of yourself, with the higher timeline, it's about recognizing that there are, especially over the next couple of years, going to be strings of attachment that attach us from where we want to be, from our highest expression, and still connect us to this kind of lower timeline. Now, that's perfectly okay because it is just simply part of the evolutionary journey. There is no avoiding it. However, it's about recognizing what those are. And so I'm really excited to go a little bit deeper into how we kind of transmute those connections and how we can notice them and not allow them to dictate how we feel or how we're expressing ourselves or how we are being in the world. And then we can ultimately very quickly return back into the higher timeline that we're going to go in a little bit deeper into now. So the new earth and the higher timeline, again, from this 3D to 5D shift, is going to be deeply resonant, deeply directed by the fact that we are moving from the mind to the heart. So I don't know about you guys, but for the last couple of years, going deep into personal development, not just then, but also through my life, I became an absolute master of my mind. Now, I can mindset my way out of almost anything. However, that way has taken us so far. And again, this is like calling so much gratitude to the way showers of the past that have like allowed us to be where we're at, having known and understood mindset, because it's been part of the evolutionary journey. However, moving forward, we are recognizing and being interactive more from a heart space instead of from the mind space. And so some of the processes that we're going to be experiencing over the next week are going to be kind of anchored from that real heart space. And so we're also recognizing that in the heart space, we're never kind of avoiding or dodging the feelings in which we are experiencing. We are continuously being willing to lean into those feelings and experience them, because that is the way of the new earth. That is the way of the new experience that's being kind of created into our reality now. So let's see where we're up to. So in a similar capacity to the kind of 3D and the 5D, we choose not to see one as better than the other, because they are happening consecutively. It's just how we interact with it as to whether it makes us feel expanded or contracted. And so as we're anchoring into this newer, higher timeline, into this newer, higher expression of ourselves, it's really, really important to not beat down the other version of us, the smaller self that pops up to have us feel and experience things as we go. And to give you an example of this, you know, with every new thing that we birth and with everything that we share, it's very common for the small self or the egoic part of ourselves to kind of come up to the surface in order to be felt, experienced, and transmuted. And so yesterday, I was saying, I don't know if you've seen my Instagram live from today, but I had my day yesterday, which was ultimately bringing all of any of the feelings that had been, you know, in my body that needed to be felt and expressed and ultimately let go of, transmuted, moved out of me, so that I could show up this week as the highest and fullest expression of myself. Because if those parts of me, those lower self parts of me, were running the show, then I would not be able to show up in the way that I intend to this week. I would not have been able to serve at my highest, and I would not have been a good expression or example of the frequencies in which I am here to share with you over this week. And so, you know, although there were parts of my experience with that small self yesterday which were, you know, not feeling good, the most important thing that I did, and that each of us kind of need to do moving forward, is be really, really kind to that part of ourselves. And again, we're going to be going a lot deeper into this particular element over the next week. So that's really exciting. Okay. So in order for us to know what our higher timeline is, what our highest existence is, what our highest experience is, and anchor that in, because that is you as your new Earth Woman expression, we need to be able to recognize where it is that we've come from, what are our gifts. And as women, we're so good, so good at dimming our light, at downplaying the gifts in which we have. And until we are able to recognize what those gifts are, and until we were able to recognize what it is that our light is, then we are never going to be able to anchor fully into the expression of that light, right? You know, without being able to just naturally follow the rhythms of your soul. And so you're here to anchor in these gifts that you have. But like I said, if you don't recognize what they are, it can make it very, very challenging. So on the Facebook post that I had in the group, a couple of you said things along the lines of, like, I want to, you know, show up more fully and express myself in a more expressed way, and I want to be seen. Now, in order for us to really do that, we need to recognize what our gifts are. So here is where I would love you guys to interact in the chat box, because I would love you to start to share in the chat box what some of your gifts are. Because the truth is that until we start to see ourselves, the world will not see us. I remember only maybe 8 months ago, I would often have the conversation with my friends around, you know, I just feel like sometimes I'm not seen. Like, I meet these people and they think that, like, I don't know as much as I know, or I'm not expressing, like, they think I don't have as much to offer as what I have to offer. I wish they would just take the time to get to know me. And then over a period of time, I started to anchor in deeper and deeper and deeper what it was that my gifts were. And I started to recognize that the things that I had glazed over as just being normal were actually gifts. Not everybody has some of the gifts that I have. I'm sure there are some people somewhere, but not my particular unique conglomerate of them, not my particular unique example of them. And so once I started to recognize them in a far deeper way than what I ever had before, that's when I started to feel like other people were seeing me, right? Because our world is a complete and utter direct reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And so here we've got some comments coming through: making people feel comfortable, to trust me, holding space. Yes. What else are some of your gifts? Because ultimately, unless we are able and willing to anchor into who we are, it's always going to be a challenge to hold the higher timeline, to hold the highest version of ourselves. Now, just excuse me while I take a drink. Peppermint tea for my afternoon. Empathy, intuition, patience, futuristic, listening well. Amazing. Now, for those of you who are working in some capacity, or maybe your role in life is to be a mother or whatever it is, like, I really want you to start to journal on what it is that your gifts are. Intuition, channeling, seeing other people's highest versions and reality and quantum shifting them into that space. Amazing. Intuition, holding space, leadership. Yes, totally. And so amazing. I heal others by just being present in their space. I inspire others to do the best, to be the best versions of themselves. I do mediumship. I am a Reiki master, theta healing instructor. I teach others how to heal themselves. Amazing. So many beautiful and amazing gifts here. And so if I was to ask you, to really, really own and recognize your the journey in which that you have taken to get here, how much are you consciously recognizing the experiences that you've had as part of your gifts, as in having overcome those experiences, having been on the other side of those experiences? How conscious are you, and how aware are you, and how much are they playing a part in your daily expression of yourself? Now, what I mean by this is each and every single one of us has come along on a journey, and we are not the same person as we were yesterday, let alone last year, let alone 3 years before that, let alone 15 years before that. And it's so easy for us to get to where we are and then think unconsciously that we are relatively unchanged, or that we are not so different to where we were before. I was having this conversation with a very good girlfriend of mine who is kind of on an experience of a little bit of a body transformation journey at the moment. And I was saying to her, it's really important that you take some photos of where you're at right now, because I know you, and this applies to everyone, not just her, but you will get 3 months down the track and you will be on the other side of this transformation, and you will forget what you felt like in this moment. You'll forget what the transformation was like. And so in order for us to be in the higher timeline, and we need to be able to recognize where we've come from. So I call this, and not just but it's called the reverse gap. Now, what is the gap between where you were and where you are now? So the reverse gap, so we as our highest timeline expression, we're quite often looking towards the future. We're looking towards how we want to be. However, in order for us to anchor in the higher timeline expression of who we are, we need to anchor it in from who we are now. Because it's all well and good to have a higher vision, and that's an important part of the process that we'll be going into in a second. However, without anchoring in who we already are, then we're constantly chasing the future. We're constantly chasing the next thing, the next best thing, the next best version of us. And we're constantly in this loop of like not enoughness, because we're not yet recognizing who it is that we are in this very moment. Just reading out some of the more of the comments. Passion, kindness, holding space, intuitive, shape-shifting with change, poet and deep, yes. Sensitivity, although I used to think it was a curse, yeah, totally, Julie, it's absolutely a gift. It's been very hard, but I'm very proud of what I've achieved to be here, yes, right? So many of the women of the new earth have had to endure experiences that others may not have had to, purely for the point of having overcome them to create and pave the way for those before us, after us, pave the way for those after us. And so, you know, like at the beginning where I was saying how much gratitude I have for like my mum, for example, for having done 3/4 of the work for me. She already had cleared a significant amount of ancestral trauma. She had already cleared a significant amount of the wounding and expressions that she had had. And so by the time I came along into my teens, I was actually able to have a far less amount. Now, that is an example in which I am in very close proximity to her. However, from the perspective of the evolution of humankind, as we all know, we are all one and we are all kind of in union as one being from an energetic perspective. And so as each of us do it, it is creating a new way for other to experience that as well. Okay, so let me just see where I'm up to. So when we are looking at our reverse gap, we have to be able to recognize what it is that as a light bringer, as a light shiner, what it is that we're actually shining. And so when we look back into the old version of us and we sit with the journey and we sit with all of the experiences that we had to get to where we are, and when we can look back and go, whoa, I used to do that thing, or whoa, like look at the new world of creations that I have in my experience because I healed those things, right? So an example of this would be you know, the evolution for me with men having come into my world and the differences of the experiences that I've had over the years and how I can very clearly see when I've made a shift in something because the men that show up in my world look different. So I would love for you guys to share again in the chat box to share with me what is your reverse gap. Like when you look at the past and when you look at where you've come from, what are some of the things in which you have overcome that you are now kind of anchoring in as something that is absolutely the coding that you hold in your field of that is available for you when you're shining your light? Like what is your beacon? If you were to see your expression of yourself as pure light coding, right? When somebody looks at it without their mind, with their heart, what are they tapping into when you are shining your light? So for me, it would be the fact that I have come through this journey of fully expressing myself and putting myself out there into the world, even though I absolutely in the past would have been afraid of being called woo-woo or cuckoo, because that is how it kind of got brought up to me as to what it was to live in this world. And so for me to come out, it was actually a big kind of a challenge. And so what I hold in my field is the ability to be fully self-expressed. And yes, there's still stuff that comes up, but when I shine my light and when I express myself into the world, it ultimately gives, you know, permission for other women to do the same. Eliza Vetta says, I know this is victim consciousness, but I had to clear it myself as my family didn't have the tools. There was so much suffering I had to clear coming from a village in Russia. Yes, this is absolutely, and thank you so much for sharing. This is the case and this is the journey for so many of us. And you know, you now having done that are going to be the way forward, the way shower for the next generation. And this is what I was referring to earlier, because each and every single one of us who have overcome this adversity and overcome these experiences, it creates a new way forward. And so although my experiences have been less traumatic than so many of my sisters that I know, it's really, this is how I get to have quite a clear and pure vessel of expression, because I don't hold a lot of that stuff. Now, that is not to say that is better than or worse than. It is absolutely not. It's just different than, because each and every single one of us are playing a pivotal role in this new earth experience, in this portal of expansion that we're going through. Christine says, people see me and see so much unconditional love. Yes, I came from being an absolute bitch and took pride in people being afraid of me. That's a big journey to go through. And yes, holding that unconditional love is such a beautiful, bright light to shine, because yeah, the absolute bitch is definitely part of the new earth. Now, like, let's be very, very clear. The absolute bitch, not you, but in general, is still a part of the new, far out, it is part of the old earth. It is part of the old expression. However, you have taken that journey through that experience, and by being in this expression of unconditional love, you're holding the frequencies of this new earth woman. And so I love that. It's so beautiful and potent to recognize that, because sometimes as like divine kind of light beacons, we can forget, and we can get into a state of not enoughness because we're not recognizing that reverse gap. And this is kind of the homework that I want to send home with you guys, home play, I should say, you know, off the back of this, whether it be just in the comments or, you know, in your journal, whatever it is just to really, really anchor in what your reverse gap is. What is the experiences that have made me who I am today? And I want you to acknowledge yourself for those things. Now, if this is one of your kind of sore spots or soft points where it can be challenging for you to see yourself, and you may recognize this by feeling like you're not very seen for your gift, this is where we first must see it ourselves. And so if this is something that is a sore spot for you, I recommend doing this every single day for a period of a month or more, where you are jotting down and acknowledging who you have become and how you have become where you're at right now, because that will anchor in this kind of new and higher timeline of the expression in which you are right now, acknowledging all of the ways in which you show up in the world that are very different to the version of you from the past who may have done it very, very differently, whether that be through experiences of, you know, external circumstances, or whether it be just through things like Christine said, where we'll just be a bit of a bitch sometimes. So Janine says, or Janie, sorry, says, balancing the male-female relationship. I had some awful relations imbalance now. I totally love my male friends and relations, which honors my own female self. Exactly. We're going to be going spending one of the days this week going into the masculine and feminine dynamics that are held within us that show up in our external worlds. And so I love that you bring up that point, Janie, because yeah, it's a really important part of the evolutionary journey. And as a new earth woman, we have like true soul sisters that sit in our field. And if we don't have that yet, that's okay. That's where we're going. And if you do have that, like, kudos to you, because ultimately, again, this is part of the reason you were being called to this container, because being able to kind of create and call in those types of soul sister relationships means that there is a really big part of that kind of unhealthy feminine wounding stuff that has been healed. Because I don't know about you, but at least through my entire life of experience, there has been a lot of kind of toxic friendships along the way, or even if they're not toxic, no depth, like really surface level kind of friendships that we've all experienced kind of time and time again, whether that be with men or women. But we'll go into those dynamics more on one of the days during the week. So Maya says, having worked through the relationship with my narcissistic mother and healing, then going in to teach others, I have had to put huge boundary around my 45-year-old daughter. Currently, she is not talking to me, a huge test for me about holding a boundary. Yeah, such a powerful, important part of the New Earth Woman, because as the full expression of her, the boundaries are not being mean. They are actually self-preservation and the self-love. And so thanks for sharing that, Maya. Okay. So once we've kind of gotten in and anchored in those like reverse gap and those parts of ourselves that have kind of taken us along to where we are right now, then we get to kind of recognize how it is that we're shining our light and what even it is, what even it means to shine our light as a new Earth woman. And the most main important thing that it makes a very big difference between the average new age spiritual woman or anyone, you know, shining their light versus the new Earth woman is that the new Earth woman is not doing it for anybody else. When she is anchored in seeing herself, and when she is completely recognizing her worth and her enoughness, then she is shining her light purely because she knows it's her purpose to do so. It's not so that anybody else will recognize her. It's not so that she can fulfill her egoic needs that are, you know, with love, a part of the experience. But it is purely for the purpose of following her excitement, because when she follows her excitement, that does light her up. That is what emanates the light from her field out into the world. And that is the purpose of her experience here. And again, we're going to be going deeper into this on one of the days as well, is about the purpose of being you and the purpose of being the full expression of you. And the kind of final piece that I really wanted to share with you today, and thank you so much for being here for this kind of introduction to the week. I trust that you've all received something through it so far, is that being a new Earth woman holds no pedestal, because the new Earth woman recognizes that she is not better than or worse than anybody else. By being a new Earth woman, we hold the humility in our field that is a very clear reflection of the self-love of self and of other. And we recognize that every individual human being is exactly where they need to be in their own path to evolution. And this is why shining our light is not for anybody else, because we are not here to save anybody. We are not here to fix anybody. We are here to be in our fullest, most love and fun and expression. And so humility is a huge important piece, and collective energy is a huge important piece, because, and again, we're going to be going deep into this on one of the days too, which is all about like removing away the pedestals and removing away the pieces that make us better than or less than other people. Because in order to be the highest expression, the highest version of yourself, then the humility of recognizing that your highest version of yourself is not better or worse than somebody else, period, needs to be kind of one of the major frequencies in which are required as part of this woman. Because we can only hold the kind of highest version of the new Earth timeline in our field if we are not consistently, what's the word? It's gone. If we are holding the frequency of humility in the same time. Yes. So I think that I have covered almost everything that I had planned to cover today. The main point of today being that we're just really setting up for the next 6 days and introducing to the frequencies. So I would love for you to share with me in the chat box what's the main thing that you've been taken away from today? What is the main thing that's landed, or the thing that you have kind of caught onto and really want to go deeper into during the week? I would love to hear from you. Now, I recognize there is a slight delay in this Zoom live to Facebook, so I will just give you a moment. And I have some responses here, obviously, to something that I said 20 seconds ago. Yes, 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 Samantha thought. I think we're talking about the humility piece there. So thank you. Yes, so important for us to hold that frequency. So I'm just waiting for your shares. Reverse gap. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. And I can't wait to hear from all of you, both on the replay and those watching live, with some more in the chat box after you've done a little bit of journaling or digging into this, which is, what is your reverse gap? What are the things that you are acknowledging about yourself in the now that you already are? So beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Now just give it one more moment to identify and acknowledge my gifts. Yes, thank you for that. Similar to the reverse gap. When we don't, yes, and recognizing my gifts in their fullest and reverse gap exercise. Yes. And you guys, I want you to go deep onto this. Like, one of the major parts of being New Earth Woman is that I'm, although I am going to be, like, through this immersion, absolutely holding this for you, the New Earth Woman absolutely can do these things on her own. And so I will share with you the guidance, and then you get to go and play on your own. And I would love to hear how you go. We've got some more here. Yes, the gap, and bring light to it. Yes, I need to reflect on my gifts. I've always found reflection on self difficult, but I will get to work tonight. Yes, Zoe, thank you. I love the reverse gap info, and very interested about masculine and feminine equality and equanimity. Yes, the reverse gap for me too. To be kind to the parts of me expanding and transforming. Yes, Julie, that's such a beautiful, important part. We will be going deep on that in one of the days this week. Yes, the reverse gap. Everybody loves the reverse gap. Appreciation of my journey, and I'm in the right place for now. Yes, reverse gap. One thing I want to add to that, Kathleen, is that this is actually something that I meant to say earlier, but whatever age you are at, whatever stage of your life that you are in right now is exactly where you were meant to be for this particular part of humanity's evolution. Now, if you are, kind of in the age between sort of 30 and 40, it's very likely that you are here to do some kind of big work in the future, because if you're at that stage, there is so much more to come, right? If you are kind of beyond the probably 50 mark, know that you have made an enormous impact through kind of paving the way for other women to date. And of course, again, also, you're going to be obviously have a lot more to share moving forward. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that you are old at all. There is way more for you to share, but know and recognize that some of the adversities that you've experienced through your life are a huge part of why the younger people are able to experience a different world. And so that's such an important thing that I forgot to mention earlier. So thanks for reminding me of that, Kathleen. So everybody's loving the reverse gap. To look back and see that I'm not vibrating in the old ways. Yes, this is so beautiful, Janie, because I've had this conversation very, very frequently recently, which is so many people that are working in this industry with clients in the service industry, whether it be coaches, healers, etc. And I recognize a couple of you said that you were healers and what have you, is that when we first started to do this work, it was kind of our intention, once we woke up ourselves, to kind of help wake up the rest of the planet, right? And for so many of us, that has been part of the journey, especially for the last 10, for some of you and some of us 20 years. And as we're moving into this next stage of evolution, there is actually kind of, and I did actually want to go deep into this today, and it's just completely crossed my mind. Skip my mind, whatever. And so it's perfect that you've shared this. So let's just say that there's like the three kind of experiences to make this easy to translate. So let's say that we have like the asleep, and then we have the awake, and then we kind of have the like super conscious, right? So the evolution has shifted that at some point in time in our journey, we were the awake, and now there's this kind of new creation of human being that's in existence right now, which is like this kind of super conscious. Now, again, very, very clearly, like I said earlier, this is not a hierarchy. This is not that one is better than the other. They are all equally important in our evolutionary journey right now. It's just the stages in which you are at. Now, for those of you who have been playing in the fields of kind of waking people up, really like dragging them from one stage to the next, there has been so many people recognizing very recently that they've actually moved along the chart, and that their job is no longer to actually be in this middle kind of awake to wake the people up. They're actually holding a higher expression and a higher vision for humanity. And so if that kind of resonates with you, I want to kind of speak to this, because when I was told this in a session with seventh dimensional trance channel beings, and they told me that I didn't need to play in that arena anymore, that it wasn't my job to wake people up, it was actually very freeing and expansive for me, because of the conscious knowledge and awareness and wisdom that I kind of hold in my field, and that it was actually very draining on my field and on my being to kind of work in the waking people up sort of arena. So for any of you that resonates with, I'll just drop that in there and leave that. And I recognize that we have been going for an hour now, so I am going to sign off. So I would love, again, for you, after you've done your home play, to please come back into the chat box and let me know. If you've watched this on replay, please do the same, even if it's days and days from now. And I am going to love you all and leave you. So please do join me tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat box, and I will see you all tomorrow. Mwah! Bye.